Welcome back. Now on to the last pedagogical approach that can be used in an early classroom setting, what we call it as documenting, will be dealt in this video. At the end of this video, you will be able to define documenting as a teaching pedagogy, comprehend the concept of meaningful documentation through learning journey portfolio, infer the role of educator in making learning journey portfolio, identify the components of the portfolio, and gather information from multiple sources. Let us define what documenting is. It's a process of gradually building a unique and a lively picture of the child as a whole over some time, across a range of learning experiences and at varied context. The process of documenting in an early classroom setting is of twofold. The first one is gathering of information about the child and her learning potentials and experiences. The second one is a presentation of the collected data to build a distinctive and lively picture of the child. The most crucial point to be noted in documenting is that the presentation should indicate the progress of a child in his or her learning and development potential. An early childhood educator's prime responsibility is to build a dynamic picture of a child, indicating the interests, strengths, capabilities, and competencies across varied learning experiences and social context of the child. But how to document meaningfully? The process of documenting the child's learning and experiences and potentials over a period of time would be more productive if presented in the form of a story and is referred to as the learning story approach. The learning story approach provides an opportunity for the educator to do justice towards the distinctiveness of a child, and it also should have narratives with interest and humor without losing the sense of identity of the child as a learner. So for a learning story approach, there should be certain essential components. The first essential component is the report cards and checklist to realize what a child has mastered over a period of time. The second most important element is that the written narratives that had captured the conversations. The third is special learning moments that give a sense of how, where, and when the learning had taken place. Fourth is unique patterns of socialization to show the social behavior of a child. When all of these essential components are added to the learning story approach, the instructional practice documenting becomes a process that can enhance and motivate the learning and development potential of a child. The learning story approach, when embedded with all the needed components, can be technically named as a learning journey portfolio. What is a learning journey portfolio? It's a scrapbook or a box or a large folder that has gathered informations, observations, worksheets, report cards, creative activities, and candid pictures of a child depicting the whole story of a child within a period of time. The story should necessarily include the child's efforts, progress, and accomplishment over a period. In turn, the portfolio serves as an essential assessment tool. Hence, learning journey portfolio is defined as an effective way of gathering and presenting information that reflects a child as a unique individual in the process of learning. The portfolio contains the capabilities, potentialities, and the interest of the child. Now, let us look into the process of learning journey portfolio along with its benefits. The learning journey portfolio is useful in numerous contexts, covering up the whole process of the early classroom setting. The following illustration would portray the process of learning journey portfolio and its benefits. First process is easily adaptable in almost all contexts. Learning journey portfolio becomes a document that can be adapted itself virtually to all settings relevant to both the child and the ECCE center. The portfolio can be made for children of all ages and different developmental potentials. Moreover, it is a document that can be adapted in almost all types of ECCE setting the curriculum followed, and the approach towards assessment. Second process is it should capture multidimensional aspects of the child learning and development. Learning journey portfolio, if done in an organized manner, it has got the potential of capturing multidimensional arenas of the child's learning and development within a period of time. The various areas of development that can be covered are physical, intellectual, social, emotional, and language. The third process is focus on what the child can do. The learning journey portfolio should comply in such a way that it focuses on what the child can do rather than what they cannot. This characteristics of learning journey portfolio helps the child to develop a positive identity, feel empowered, enhance self-confidence, gain a sense of responsibility, and take up the ownership of accomplishments. Then the fourth is meaningful assessment to communicate. The learning journey portfolio, when documented effectively, it becomes a meaningful assessment document to be delivered to the child himself, his parents, and other colleagues in the center to understand the potentialities of the child. All these four processes leads to a complete and meaningful picture of the child. When all of the above four steps were carried out effectively, the learning journey portfolio thus formulated would give a full and useful picture of the child. Then in turn, what happens is learning journey portfolio supports continuous learning. The complete picture of the child supports the child and her teacher in the primary grades to know the learning and development potential of that particular child, and thereby their further learning is encouraged. Now, let us understand the components of learning journey portfolio. As already mentioned, the portfolio demonstrates not only the process of learning but also the place of learning. In other words, the portfolio explains the how and where of learning and development occurred. For such an explanation, evidence or information has to be sought from multiple sources by adopting different methods of collecting information. The illustration that is going to be shown to you provide a complete overview of the various components that encompass a good portfolio. The first and the foremost source to collect information about a child is nobody else other than the parents. The general profile of the child, their observations, comments, at times photographs of the child can be sought from the parents. The second major source of information is the child himself or herself. Rapport has to be built by the educator so that the child feels free to express his likes, dislikes, strengths, interests, etc. After collecting information from the parents and the child, the educator now has to focus on collecting evidences of the child's activities in the classroom that might include the worksheets, creative activities, project reports, etc. Moreover, the child's inner voice has to be included as self-reflections. Now, the educator, as a next step, also has to compile the entire learning stories of the child in the form of observations, written narratives with humor element incorporated, as already explained. As a step further, evidences of the child's progress, which can be directly measured, is the next aspect of preparing a portfolio. The educator has to collect the report cards, slip test reports, graded assessments to show the progress of the child from one level to the other. To make the portfolio a memorable and interesting one, the educator should also produce snapshots of the child in action that are candid and at the same time indicating a positive behavior of a child. As a final touch to the complete portfolio, the educator should also attach the evidences of the child's awards, meritorious certificates that demonstrates the accomplishment of the child. So to conclude, learning journey portfolio is a positive record of the child's progress, potentialities, abilities and interests at a particular period of time. The portfolio is an effective instructional practice when it can demonstrate the uniqueness of the child, provide information for others by facilitating the continuity of learning to the primary grade. Thank you.